Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA has gone in, has doubled down on his Lakers position. Here's Charles Barkley just moments ago on the halftime show on the NBA on TNT.
You were critical of the Lakers at the beginning of the season because they weren't no good. Do you think they're good now?
I think they're solid. I don't think they're a contender.
Okay.
I don't think they're a contender.
But solid from you is a major upgrade.
Listen, man, they were awful. They were awful to start the season. They've been awful for the last 2 or 3 years, in fairness. Luka is an upgrade, but I still don't think they're on the same level with the Nuggets. And OKC is the best team in the West. I'm not sure they're better than Memphis. I'm not even sure they're better than the Rockets.
Yeah. Now, come on. Hold on. Before you go, there is Charles, as much as I love him, has had a history of getting these kinds of things wrong. Not just with the Lakers. I mean, forever he would
say
the Warriors, jump shooting teams don't win championships. So this isn't like some sort of he gets very entrenched very quickly.
No, he's an entertainer and he's extremely entertaining, but it's just not a serious basketball take. Nobody that's watched the NBA closely would agree with that. And I should say nobody. There's sometimes, George, I think guys that are in other markets don't want the people in that market to be like, oh, you're on the Lakers again, because the Lakers are the national brand like that in the way that the Cowboys or Yankees are. So they might not even mean it. And I think Charles is playing up to that to a degree, but
NBA,
come on.
George, I think you know this because you are as national as you are local in the way that you cover the league and you are part of the league.
Our league.
National pundits hate being seen as somebody who is hyping the Laker train and searching for clicks. And I hear a lot of people at our own company at ESPN and their podcasts where they will try to sound like they don't want to talk about the Lakers, even though we know they want to talk about the Lakers because it's good for business, but you can't look transparent about it, so you do this dance. But everybody knows the Lakers are good for business, and you don't want to seem nakedly craven about it. So I think sometimes you hear pundits who will try as hard as they can to avoid acknowledging the Lakers are even good so they don't seem like they're hyping them.
Yeah. Well, listen, I've been, to your point, I've been on both sides of that, right? Like, I remember when LeBron first got here, and I was very critical of the team they built around him, right? Like, Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson, and I said, what are we doing? There's no shooting on this team. That didn't go over so well. You know what I'm saying, is what I would say at that particular time. But then I was like, when people were lamenting, oh, we can't trade all of Trudell's children for Anthony Davis. We can't trade Lonzo and Brandon Ingram and all. And I'm like, listen, man, you do that and twice on Sundays and you're going to have a parade down Figueroa. Now, I was mostly right. We didn't have a parade down Figueroa because it was a once-in-a-lifetime event that actually transpired at that particular time. But you got the championship. So what I would say to you is, yes, you're right, but I couldn't disagree with Charles more. Offensively, this team is going to be very good. Defensively, they've already proven, Andy, as you and I talked about, that this is sustainable, I would think, to a point. Like, maybe they do just wear down physically.
Yeah, it's taxing what they're doing.
Correct.
But they show they can do it.
And in terms of being a contender, outside of Boston, right? Yeah. You can pick nits at any of the other teams that are contenders. I would include Cleveland. I would include OKC. Obviously, I would include Denver, but I can make pretty good arguments as to why those teams all have vulnerabilities outside of Boston, who has proven that they have.
Charles said that the Lakers stunk for the last couple of years. They were in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
They did stink though for most of that year. They were weren't they 9 games under 500 at one point?
But they did manage to get to the Western Conference Finals.
I get it.
When they traded Westbrook, then they became a contender.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. So they weren't a good team up to that point, but even then they were around 500, and then they made the trade, and they were And last year I think they would have beaten many of the other opponents in the Western Conference playoffs outside of Denver and Nikola Jokic.
Look, every team, to your point, has flaws, right?
Yeah.
Boston. Injuries can get to them.
Their only flaw, George, is that they didn't add talent to a champion.
Correct.
And that doesn't usually work. Usually you get worn down mentally the next year if you don't add to it.
You need the one extra guy or two extra guys that haven't won the title to help push you in that sense.
Yeah.
I think Cleveland, I don't think Cleveland has a lot of warts, to be honest with you. I still think that I still think on the wing they're somewhat vulnerable, although less so with DeAndre Hunter. But I think they're very good. OKC, they seem to have corrected their shooting woes at the very least over the last 2 months. So that was kind of their Achilles heel, but that I still think that can creep itself up a little bit. And then Denver, they don't have the depth that they once had, and their defense is not very good. So, yeah, I think everyone's got a wart. I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah. So I think that's Charles is less. He's just kind of playing his character in that kind of a comment. And by the way, that's not going to change. Okay, the Lakers can win. They can keep playing at this pace, and they'll be the 2 seed. And I don't think he's suddenly going to be like, okay, I was right. It's just part of the bit.
This has been Charles's shtick.
It's his bit, yeah.
Whatever reason, I don't know if it's rooted in anything. Like there could be a 30 for 30. What did the Lakers do to Charles Barkley that hurt him so bad? Or if he just recognizes I get to piss off the most people by saying this because the Lakers are the most popular team in the NBA.
And most people love that take, too, because most people do not want the Lakers to be good.
And anybody who's not a Laker fan, I mean, they probably have the biggest fan base of any individual team, but there are more people who don't like the Lakers. So it works.